All right, guys. So once again, stimulus talks are heating up among our politicians in Washington as the Democrats are looking to move potentially with the budget reconciliation process as a means to push forward Biden's ambitious budget agenda that includes a $15 an hour minimum wage, $1,400 stimulus checks, billions of dollars to state and local governments, and a laundry list of extra spending that Biden wants to accomplish in the first quarter of his administration. Now, Republicans are in a really interesting position right now because they know that budget reconciliation only needs 51 votes to pass. So essentially, as long as the Democrats can get everybody on board, they can pass whatever they want without the Republicans at all. So the Republicans are in a situation where they have to come to the negotiating table, right, in order to actually try to convince Biden to not move forward with some of his more ambitious spending items in exchange for some more conservative spending that the Republicans want to do. Okay, and the reason why is because the budget reconciliation process takes a long time, right? It could take 3 or 4 weeks in order for them to actually get done with it. Something like the Republicans and Democrats coming together on a stimulus package that can pass through 60 votes or whatever, right, would not be as difficult and would be able to pass a lot faster than the budget reconciliation process. So the Republicans essentially don't want Biden to go full hog on the budget reconciliation thing. So they're coming to the table to try to propose a stimulus, which their stimulus package they're proposing is $618 billion. And they're probably going to try to meet the Biden administration somewhere halfway. So we are going to go ahead and take a look at my notes in regards to both packages and kind of compare the two so that you guys understand exactly what we may be getting in the future. And keep in mind, this was led by a group of 10 Republicans. The main leader is Senator Susan Collins, who is a senator from Maine. Let's go ahead and get into this. So, package size. Biden's plan is $1.9 trillion. The GOP plan is $618 billion. That should be no surprise to anybody. If you paid attention to any of the Republican negotiations in the past, they've always wanted to keep it around $500 billion or so, especially at the start of negotiations. Now, when it comes to stimulus payments, Biden wants to send another $1,400. Again, he's breaking his promise of $2,000 that he put out there in order to win Georgia. So this goes to individuals who are earning less than $75,000. They'll receive the full amount, and married couples earning less than $150,000 will receive the full amount as well. The GOP, they want to send $1,000 checks instead. It's interesting to see that the GOP is starting at $1,000, which I feel like is pretty high for Republicans to start at, but I think that they kind of understand how popular stimulus checks are in this country. So they're starting at $1,000. Now, the only thing is that the GOP, with their plan, they want to begin phasing out the $1,000 at $40K a year for individuals and $80K a year for couples filing jointly. And the upper cap will be $50,000 and $100,000 for couples. Dependent adults and children will receive $500 each. So the GOP here is saying that, hey, we agree with stimulus checks. However, we want them to go to those who are really the most needy, right? We want it to go to people who are earning less than $40,000 a year and couples who are earning less than $80,000 a year. Let's just target it there, right? And that's how they kind of have kept the cost of the package under control by including those who are making less. So a lot of people that's earning over $50K with the GOP plan would not receive anything at all. The GOP is truly trying to take a targeted approach to stimulus checks, which shouldn't be no surprise. Now, for unemployment benefits, Joe Biden would increase the federal boost for the jobless to receive $400 a week. That's up from the $300 in the last relief package. He will also extend the payments along with two key pandemic unemployment programs through September. The GOP proposal would extend the $300 benefit that was passed in December to June 30th, and they will also provide $2 billion to states to improve their technology. Coronavirus vaccine testing and tracing. Joe Biden wants to invest $20 billion there in a national vaccine program, including launching community vaccination centers around the country in mobile units in hard to reach areas. Biden will also increase federal support to vaccinate Medicaid enrollees. They will also invest $50 billion in testing to provide funds for purchase of rapid tests, expand lab capabilities, and help schools implement regular testing to support reopening. The GOP proposal calls for the same amount. To battle pandemic, it will fund a national vaccine program and expand testing, a disaster relief fund, and personal protective equipment for first responders, independent physicians, offices, and dentists. The GOP also would spend $15 billion to replenish the national strategic stockpile and inject $35 billion into provider relief funds, which reimburses hospitals and healthcare providers for coronavirus-related expenses and revenue losses. So basically, the GOP and the Biden administration are basically on the same page when it comes to the vaccine testing and tracing and the funds that go towards that. It's not really much different there. Now, the nutrition assistance program, which is basically food stamps, Biden wants to extend that through September, as well as provide $3 billion in WIC to help women, and an additional $1 billion in nutritional assistance for U.S. territories. The GOP wants to extend the food stamp program as well, and also provide $3 billion for WIC. Now, for small businesses, Biden is for providing $15 billion to create a new grant program for small business owners, separate from the Paycheck Protection Program. It also proposes making a $35 billion investment in some state, local, tribal, and nonprofit financing programs that will make low-interest loans and provide venture capital to entrepreneurs. The GOP, they want to put more money in the Paycheck Protection Program and the Emergency Injury Disaster Program, which provides long-term low-interest loans from the Small Business Administration. Their proposal includes a $5 million for audits and investigations into the Paycheck Protection Program, basically trying to get people that finesse that program back. When it comes to school reopening, Biden wants to provide an additional $170 billion to get schools back open. And that's on top of the $82 billion in aid that was already provided by Congress in December. The GOP wants to provide $20 billion for getting K through 12 students back to school. Now, keep in mind, again, they had already received $82 billion from the last package. So the GOP is not really trying to give too much money towards getting schools back open. Childcare. Biden wants Congress to create a $25 billion emergency fund and add $15 billion to the existing grant program to help childcare providers. The GOP wants to allocate $20 billion for childcare and development block program, which provides federal assistance to low-income families who are working or taking classes to pay for childcare. Now, for mental health services, Biden calls for $4 billion for that, and the GOP also wants $4 billion for that as well. Now, what's not mentioned here, which is probably the most interesting part, is that the GOP has not mentioned anything about aid for state and local governments, which Biden wants $350 billion for that. Now, again, I'm pretty sure the GOP is not on board with that. Obviously, that's why they included it in there. A $15 an hour minimum wage. GOP obviously is not for that either. Now, rental assistance and eviction moratorium. Biden does want $25 billion in rental assistance in addition to $25 billion that was provided in December. So he wants more money for that. And then liability protections, which I'm also surprised are not mentioned here. The GOP has been very, very gung-ho about getting liability protections because that helps facilitate reopening for a lot of businesses. And I'm surprised that they did not put this in here. So what does that all mean in terms of negotiation? So in my opinion, this is just the start, obviously. I think what's going to happen here is that I think that the GOP really included all the key things that Biden really wants, that Biden knows like he can get from a bipartisan agreement. And I think what that means is that they're really going to put in a good faith effort in order to try to reach an agreement with Biden. They'll probably be in a ballpark around, I would say 1 trillion, 1.2, 1.3 trillion is probably where they will end up meeting. I think the items that will probably get negotiated on the most is probably these stimulus checks, right? Because the Democrats promised $2,000. Now they're down to $1,400. So that'll probably be something that they'll probably negotiate on. That will probably change. Unemployment benefits, I also think, is something that they'll probably negotiate on as well too. The GOP and Biden are not too far away on that. I think they both agree on the coronavirus and testing and tracing there. Food stamps, they agree on that. Small business stuff. I mean, again, these are small dollar items that the GOP can easily be like, okay, you can have this. This is not something that I feel like the GOP is really against. So they're probably in agreement there. Now, with schools reopening, there's obviously a huge gap here, right? The GOP does not want to fund schools reopening as much as Biden does. So that is probably going to be a huge negotiating point. Childcare probably won't be a huge negotiating point. Mental health services, they're based on the same page with that. So, what's really, I think, is going to come down to is going to be aid for states, right? I think that's going to be huge. The $15 hour minimum wage, I think that's just going to be a non-starter for the GOP in general. I don't think they're going to budge on that at all. Rental assistance, eviction moratorium. Obviously, like I said, $25 billion. That's just, again, a small ticket item, right? Like in reference to the package as a whole. I think the GOP may budge on that. And liability protections, I'm not entirely sure exactly how the Democrats are going to feel about that. So I'm not necessarily sure if the Democrats will be willing to include liability protections. But this package is definitely in the ballpark of something that can easily be negotiated on. And I think that the Republicans at this point, I know they're in a position where it's either we get a more fiscally responsible package, right, through negotiating with Biden and maybe giving up some things, or we risk the chance of them going whole hog with this budget reconciliation process, which could possibly mean that, we're getting everything, including the $15 an hour minimum wage, and they're just going to be able to spend whatever they want to spend. So interesting position for the GOP here. I think this is a great starting point for negotiations, and we'll see what happens going from there. But I wanted you guys just to understand exactly what was happening here with the stimulus. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.